Disaster. It's a term that's been well overused these days, but Biden's Afghan strategy is a real disaster. Militarily, disaster. Look at these pictures. We are failing, folks. The Taliban took a country we occupied for 2 decades. We spent $2 trillion, lost 2.4 thousand lives, and it took about a week and a half for the Taliban to embarrass our Pentagon and our White House. Financially, a disaster. We left without securing any of our assets. Bagram Air Force Base, a mere $100 million. They lost it. By the way, why would we give the Taliban Bagram? It's got 2 runways. It's well fortified. I mean, how stupid are our leaders who said, quote, nah, let's give them Bagram. We can just use that single runway Kabul airport. I know, it's right downtown where the Taliban can circle it and make it inaccessible. But come on, what's the worst that could happen? Clown show, folks. Our embassy, $700 million gone to the Taliban. Now look at these videos. Watch some of this stuff. These are just some of the weaponry we left behind. Look at those pictures of the weapons that we left behind and put them right in Taliban's hands. Now all of that stuff, that's tens of billions of dollars in assets. Biden and our moronic Pentagon and State Department chose to leave behind for the Taliban. That is a disaster. And now strategically, yet another disaster. Afghanistan is a mineral-rich country. Gold, silver, copper, all abundant underground Afghanistan. More importantly, there are what are called strategic minerals. Rare earth minerals are called. Afghanistan is rich in one of them the whole world needs, lithium. A rare earth mineral that is massively in demand around the world. Lithium is the mineral used in batteries. Now, why is that important? The world is experiencing a shortage of lithium for electric cars. The batteries in the electric cars are made of lithium. There's an estimated $2 trillion worth of lithium in Afghanistan. Now, just watch. My guess, a #1 export in the new Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, run by the Taliban, becomes lithium, replacing the current top export in Afghanistan, heroin, also run by the Taliban. It's a strategic disaster, militarily, financially, strategically, disasters. But this is also a political disaster for President Biden. Almost 70% of Americans believe Biden has botched the Afghan departure. It's so bad for old Joe, his usual supporters are nowhere to be found. And by the way, where's Kamala Harris? I'll tell you where she is. She's steering clear of this disaster. This is all his. She wants no part in helping out Joe out of this geostorm he's being hit with. After all, Biden tossed her the border crisis. She remembers that. Hey, Mr. President, payback is a B. You know what I'm saying? So Kamala, silent, Schumer, silent. In fact, many of the most vocal supporters of Biden are conspicuously silent. Speaking of silent, where are all the pro-Biden celebrities? They were so loud-mouthed. They were supporters of this guy. Where are you, John Legend? Where are you at, Chrissy Teigen? How about you, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel? You all treated Biden like God, not an aging politician with a racist past that he is. How do you like him now, Trevor Noah?
But the truth is, Biden was calling for healing. And he was promising to work just as hard for the people who didn't vote for him as the people who did. And after these last few years, man, I think that's a nice sentiment.
Okay. Weren't you just a huge fan just a couple of weeks ago? Disaster. You know, yesterday, President Biden came out and made some pointless comments about vaccine and mask mandates. More on that later in the show. But not one word about probably the most pressing issue facing America right now, Afghanistan. And the leftist media really didn't have much to say about that either. They're giving him a break. Joining us now is Steve Krakauer, founder and editor of Fourth Watch. Steve, I read your newsletter whenever it comes out. It's awesome. And you do, I think you're very fair. I mean, I think you go both sides. You take people to task, media to task if they're not holding truth to power, holding people accountable. Where's our media now when Biden seems to be failing on so many fronts?
Yeah, you could look at certain elements of the media as actually doing their job in the last few days, which is good to see. I'm glad to see the Washington Post, the Associated Press, New York Times, even CNN to some extent, holding Joe Biden to account for this disaster in Afghanistan. But I'm most concerned about the lack of questions Joe Biden is facing. He did an interview with ABC and George Stephanopoulos. Those are the only questions Joe Biden has answered about Afghanistan since Tuesday last week. And now where is he? He's completely gone from the cameras today, going on vacation to Delaware for a long weekend tonight. That's where we stand right now. No press briefing, no Jen Psaki answering questions either today. It's almost incomprehensible the amount of just distance that they're making between themselves and the press, and by extension, the people of the United States of America.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So this started to break, as you point out, last Tuesday. Biden decided on, I believe it was Thursday, to go to Camp David. He stayed below the radar. The world blew up in Afghanistan. He didn't come back. He didn't answer questions. He didn't call any world leaders. He admitted he had not called a world leader. He finally makes it out of his vacation in Camp David on Tuesday of this week to go, or I'm sorry, on Monday of this week to go address the people, runs off stage, and then goes back to Camp David, comes back for another couple of minutes on something completely different yesterday. It's insane how the man has had absolutely no accountability. No one's holding to it, though. I really don't hear people complaining about it. Stephanopoulos had a couple of questions. That's it. This is just not the way we do business in America.
You mentioned the Wednesday, the press not the press conference, the speech that he gave yesterday. I think that might have been a breaking point for some in the press. I'm starting to hear some rumblings about this. He goes out there, he talks about mask mandates and starts attacking DeSantis and stuff from the podium, walks away just like he did on Monday without answering a single question, and doesn't even mention Afghanistan, what's going on, the humanitarian crisis that is happening right now in Kabul, trying to get thousands of our own people, trying to get those tens of thousands of people who have helped us over there, not answering a single question, not even mentioning it from the podium. It's shocking, and I think the media that really gave him, a few months of leeway and not really pressing him very hard is starting to turn now, because this is real. This is actually happening. This is not some political situation. This is humanitarian crisis, and the administration is not answering questions from the press.
What about the other ones? Why aren't they asking, let's say, Kamala Harris's group, their comms, and maybe weigh in on where the heck is Jen Psaki? I know she had a planned vacation, but for God's sake, isn't it time to come out and just say something to the American people? We're just supposed to nod our heads approvingly and hope this goes. I know they hope it goes away, but it ain't going away.
It's not going away. And what do you say? I mean, General Milley and the Secretary of Defense, Austin, were out in front of the press. And we're really flailing in this situation. I mean, we had reporters who know this situation potentially, what seemed like better than the people behind the podium, asking questions, like you mentioned, about why not Bagram Air Base, where you could have two. And they're like, oh, we'll look into that. I mean, this is the extent of the types of interactions that we're getting with the press. Jen Psaki, as you mentioned, planned vacation. Okay, sure. Now she's back. Well, where is she today? Why is not a single person from the administration answering questions about what's happening in Afghanistan today? And what does this look like? I mean, we've got the Sunday shows coming up, in just a few days. We know that I would expect that someone from the administration will be out there. Last weekend, it was Tony Blinken taking all the fire from the administration. He didn't have any good answers either. And what happens now? When is the accountability? And it's not just to the press. I mean, that's what's important. The press is a conduit of the people. This is about the American people and their concerns for our own military, for those who have helped us in that region. They're not getting any questions answered from this administration at all.
Something that happened over yesterday, in fact, and we found out this morning when the interview with Stephanopoulos aired for the rest of it. Yesterday, General Milley, and I think Lloyd Austin may have agreed with him, that said that, well, we had no idea that we had no planning for Afghanistan falling in the mere 11 days. Now, there are 17 intel departments, probably thousands of people working there. No one thought of, hey, what if this happens fast, which blows me away. But he had said that when Stephanopoulos asked the president the same kind of question, he said it was baked in the sauce, or whatever term he used. So apparently he knew that could have been a possibility, part of what he did. Basically, Biden said, I did everything right because I thought about that. But the generals and the Department of Defense said that wasn't the case. And we can't hold them accountable because we can't ask them a question.
Right. They can't get their stories straight. I mean, either it is this totally came out of nowhere. We really thought that we would hold it, which, by the way, it should be noted, but Joe Biden does not do a lot of press conferences. He did one only a month ago, about 5 weeks ago in July, and said pretty much exactly what General Milley said, that we expect that the Afghan fighters will hold. We do not think that this is automatic, that the Taliban is going to take over. As you mentioned, then he's talking to George Stephanopoulos last night and saying, oh, no, we knew this was going to happen. This was they can't keep the story straight, and it's only more glaring. And it's honestly, it's worse for the administration when they don't answer questions on a regular basis, when they're not pressed regularly. You get these because you only have certain sound bites to pick from. It just makes it that much worse and that much glaring that there's this hypocrisy that's happening.
Yeah, Steve, I was going to point out, what a stark contrast to the former president who made himself completely available. He'd answer questions even to people who would just give him just the worst time in the world. Jim Acosta at CNN, generally the press gave him a hard time, but he wasn't afraid to answer questions. He wasn't afraid to defend his policies, whether people liked him or not, or they were considered a failure or a success.
Eric, it makes you miss the tweets a little bit. At least you knew what was going on in the president's head. He's tweeting all the time. I mean, we don't get anything anymore.
Yeah, we get nothing. Hey, Steve, good talking to you as always. Steve Krakauer, everybody, check out his newsletter, Fourth Watch. I believe that's what it's called. Right, Steve?
That is. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Appreciate it.
Awesome having you here.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.